I didn't realize that sweater vests were mandatory until I arrived, but I looked sufficiently professorial, I hope, having taught at this August University and other universities for quite a few years. Norman Solomon, you may know as a media critic. He's the author of Unreliable Sources and War Made Easy. He and I co-authored a book together called Target Iraq. And we will be co-teaching this course. It basically looks at the most current developments going on in the world, whether it be in Egypt or Libya or Bahrain or Afghanistan or Iran, whatever's making the headlines at the moment, and explaining how the major media in the United States put a spin on things to make the U.S. policy seem normal. And that's the policy comes out of Washington, and the major media, whether it be the New York Times or CNN or CBS, act as a transmission belt to convey to us, not completely uncritically necessarily, but in the parameters are set in Washington, not on the ground in Afghanistan or whatever country. And I'll just give you one small example from my own reporting. I was in Afghanistan. I was going from Kabul to Jalalabad to do a story about the drug trade, and my fixer said, Mr. Reese, you have nothing to worry about today. The road to Jalalabad is perfectly safe. It has not been bombed in 4 days. So we went out to Jalalabad to look at the question of the drug trade. And we all know that the drug trade has escalated in Afghanistan. It's 80% of the world's heroin comes out of Afghanistan. And we all know, of course, from reading the major media, that it's controlled by the Taliban. And that they use the money from the drug trade to attack U.S. soldiers and so on. In reality, based on my reporting, and I published this in the Progressive magazine and in my book, Conversations with Terrorists, the reality is the Taliban controls less than 3% of the drug trade. And then I proceeded to ask the questions of U.S. military officials and UN officials, well, who controls the rest of the drug trade? And it turns out it's the U.S. allies. And if you want to know why the U.S. is losing the war in Afghanistan, you simply look at the fact that we're in league with the drug lords. The folks in Karzai's cabinet including Karzai's relatives, are the drug lords. And so that kind of thing does not appear with any kind of regular basis, or if it does, it's got a particular spin put on it by the time it gets to us through the major media. So we will be taking topics like that and explaining to you, having lots of lively discussion about, and including the question of how do you actually figure out what's going on in the world. That is, given the media that's available, how do you read between the lines? How do you learn to analyze? How do you understand the biases in the media? How do you go to foreign sources or domestic websites or whatever? So you kind of have to triangulate to figure out what's really going on in the world. But it is possible to do. And I hope you'll join us. We'll have 6 weeks of fun, good, interesting, lively discussion. Afghanistan, Israel, Palestine, whatever's going on in the news, we'll take it on. I hope you join us.
Reese, thank you.